Huge news over the weekend. It's been a long time coming. One of the strangest and probably most disrespectful things we've ever seen in the league. The Canucks, they let Bruce Boudreau twist in the wind. They finally let him go. They hired Rick Tocchet, named him the coach on Sunday. He's the 21st head coach in franchise history, the third in the last 13 months. They're paying Bruce Boudreau $2 million, Travis Green $2.75 million, and Weeksy reported that Tocchet signed a 3-year deal in the $2.75 million range. Adam Foote will be an assistant. Sergei Gonchar is going to be the defensive development coach. But I don't think I've ever seen a fan base this angry at an organization the way they've handled this whole thing from soup to nuts. What you talked about it last week, you had a big tweet about it. But they're fucking irate right now. Biz, we'll go to you first.
They're paying Travis Green still?
Oh, yeah.
Dude,
oh, my God.
Dude, how about he's making $750,000 more than Bruce Boudreau? That's what caught me off guard. I think that was Green's second or third job. Bruce has been around.
They had this season, though, where they ended up going a second round of playoffs. I want to say it was in the bubble. They ended up upsetting somebody in the first 5 games, winning the first round, and then going off the second. So maybe he was re-signed after that. But Whit, I'm gonna go back to what you said last week. I wasn't as hard on the Canucks because I felt like it was this built-up thing and everybody was aware of it. Then you started seeing the clips where I guess more and more news was breaking that he was going to be canned and they were finalizing a candidate, which was talk. And obviously things took longer probably than expected, given the fact that he had the TNT job and just picking the right candidate, of course, too. But all right, you said it. Like this was like so brutal for Bruce Boudreau, and such a likable guy. Like a bunch of his former players were interviewed about it. Like Andrew Cogliano was asked about it. He said he doesn't deserve this. I love Bruce. He was huge in my development, incredible coach. So I would have to agree where the fan base in Vancouver has seen enough through the years to be irate. And there was a situation with Trevor Linden when he was there, when I think that he was very adamant that the team go through a full rebuild and tank and get really bad in order to rebuild and get back to their glory days when they fucking went to the finals against Boston. I think that ownership just refused to do it. And Aquilini has his hands in all over it, basically, to the point where it does fuck with what guys in charge want to do. And it just has led to now even more hatred, more so than I can believe. Whit, like, have you seen an ownership group more hated than this in your time being alive?
Oh, I don't know. I've never seen anything like this since I got into pro hockey. I mean the whole situation as one, like the ownership. Now let me say this: I owe a big apology to the Vancouver Canuck fan base, because I said last week, I don't know exactly how I worded it. Maybe half the fans want to rebuild, half them don't.
More than half, yeah.
I must have gotten 1,000 messages. Like a very crazy fan base that I've called out before as being toxic and maybe a little painful. But I'll rephrase. I think they all wanted to rebuild. I think they still all want to rebuild. And I totally misspoke from a fan base who's sick and tired of middling along the middle of the road. Did that make sense? Is it middling along all right?
I like it. We're going to roll.
It can't be today. Yeah, I guess.
Middling along in just obscurity, just like no man's land, just Flyers lands of all those years of finishing just so. And so now you see, like, not only do have fans wanted a rebuild and a full teardown for a while, well, all of a sudden this year you had the possible chance to make it happen with the Vancouver kid Bedard coming around, not Vancouver, but BC kid coming. And they still, like, the JT Miller signing, the Besser re-signing, the decision to not give Horvat a contract. Like, if they're going to re-sign one guy, why isn't it Horvat? And so there's all these things that have happened with this organization over these years where people have been like, tear it down and start over. And then it all ends up with just disrespecting a guy who's been a big part of the NHL for fucking 25 years, it seems like, coaching in Bruce Boudreau. So the fans have a right to be furious. And I've been so hard on Rutherford. Now, mind you, like, Alvin is what kind of job does he have? If you remember Brian Burke being the president of hockey in Calgary, Tree Living was still making the decisions. This Alvin doesn't do anything. And I'm not even chirping him. Rutherford's just like, all right, I'll hire this guy, but I'm still going to make every decision. And as hard as I've been on Rutherford, and this guy, I mean, look at what he's accomplished. 3 Stanley Cups. He's done it all. He's been successful everywhere he's gone. And I've been hard on him. But the more I hear rumblings, I think he might have actually fired Boudreau. It was this idiot owner. This owner is despised. Oh my God. And it's not just about the Boudreau decision, and it's not just about the rebuild. It's about all these messages I'm getting, and take it for what it's worth. People could be lying to me, but when you hear it enough, I don't think they are. It sounds like this guy treats people like shit. And all you want is somebody to treat their employees and to treat people around their businesses, whether it's hockey related or not. You just want them to treat them well. And this guy sounds like he treats everyone like complete shit. So it kind of makes sense when you see what they did with Boudreau and you see how things have gone. It's like you look to the top, you look to ownership, and when there's a failure, you have to end up blaming the guy that's in charge of it all. So fans are disgusted. And Biz, your original question that I've rambled on, I don't remember seeing an NHL owner hated by their fans this much. I really don't. RA, if you have anything in mind, I don't know.
No, I can't recall anything similar to this where a guy had to sit there. I mean, he thought he was getting fired in November. Boudreau said it himself. And have you ever heard a coach name who his predecessor is going to be, the guy after him? He says, I think it's going to be Tocchet. That was maybe the strangest thing I ever heard. Boudreau saying who's coming in after before it was officially announced.
Well, not only that, all right. He's like, he even said, he's like, they pretty much teed it up for when the tough part of the schedule. Like Boudreau finally started speaking up, and I wouldn't say taking shots back, but just being open and honest about how maybe as big of a gong show as it got. And in the press conference, Rutherford did comment about how he probably went too hard in on Boudreau, which, definitely media wise, where you could have pulled them over and said this, but if a coach is maybe coming into training camp a little bit unprepared, but maybe he's the type of coach where he eases into the season and gets a feeling for his players. And I think it's always been the case of where he lets them play a little bit. Pond hockey ain't the word, but just free flowing. Right? Lack of structure, lack of systems. And I could see where, a GM or a president with championship pedigree, where that would frustrate him day in and day out, where he's not seeing the hands-on work with the individual players that they are going to be keeping in the organization and seeing any form of growth. Instead, it was kind of it's a results league too, right? Boudreau's trying to win games. Rolling out your best players 24 minutes every night, in my opinion, what it's going to do is it's going to create bad habits, especially in that playing the pond hockey style where, defensively you're throwing turnovers, you're missing assignments, this and that. So the going back to last week, and we said it, and I was like, couldn't they just have fired him and had an assistant take over? Like, Yossi's been a head coach before. He's there. You're still going to end up paying Boudreau his full salary. So to drag it out and make it an embarrassing situation for him, given with how much he was liked by the fan base and how psycho they tend to be in their feelings about stuff. And that's not an insult. They care about the organization.
Oh, they're passionate.
They're passionate people. So with that, now you get the backlash. And this isn't just going to go away either. And the worst part about it, and guys, I love Tocchet and I'm happy for him. And I think he's going to be a successful coach with the Vancouver Canucks. It puts him in a horrible situation.
I know. And it's not his fault.
It could have been Scotty Bowman himself stepping in there, and it was I don't know. Some people saying that he might even get booed his first game, where it's like, what the fuck did he have to do with this? He was waiting to make a decision on seeing if it was the right fit for him, and just an overall shit show. But Wade, you have anything else to say on the situation?
An overall shit show is the perfect way to describe it. And it is unfair to talk. Like, this guy's getting a chance to be an NHL head coach again. I think he's going to be great. And you've become real close to him. But in my time with Tocchet, what a great guy. And now he's going into this hornet's nest of fans, which I hope fans are smart enough. You can't take the hatred out on Tocchet. He's done nothing wrong. And he was pretty open. Also, I wanted to bring up Rutherford. He kind of said, listen, my whole career, I've been really honest, which is a good thing, especially for guys like us and media members, gives the stuff to talk about. But he said, I got to zip it a little bit. And a lot of times I just spoke so freely and open with how I felt throughout this season and throughout how this year began with Bruce. And I wish I could take that back. He said they're friends. I don't know if they'll still be friends, but he kind of took a little ownership in terms of, like, I probably shouldn't have been speaking about certain things the way I did in terms of, like, around camp and all that other stuff. One positive out of this is that Boudreau ended up getting a pretty special send-off, and you saw him at the end, the last game. crazy amount of cheers, the horrible Bruce, there it is chant, but at least I think he got pretty teary-eyed out on the bench too, because he's 68 years old. I don't think he'll be a head coach again in the league. And so to get a goodbye like that, if you're going to look at all this bullshit that's happened in terms of how he finally got fired, if it was a quick one right after a loss on the road, you don't really get to experience all the love from the fans. And in a case where a guy's probably never going to coach in the NHL again, it's nice to get a send off like that. You could tell it meant a lot to him. So, it was a horrible way to handle things. I think for a long time, it'll be looked at and discussed as maybe the worst way to fire a guy in NHL history. Is that crazy to say? So Bruce Boudreau, what a run you've had. Congrats on all the success you did have. You didn't deserve to go out like that, but I'm glad he got to feel the love from the fan base his final game.
And on the flip side of that, guys, we WBD, Turner, TNT, whatever you want to call it, the broadcast loses a great one in Rick Tocchet. You mentioned becoming friends with him very closely over the last 2 years. What a professional. He was so passionate about the broadcast and allowed us to view things through a different lens too. Like every time a play would happen, he would have the coach's hat on and see it through the poor defensive play. And, we'd get to Josh back and forth about structure and positioning and what he would have done differently. And, sometimes we'd even argue in the back about how we want to present it on air, but not for a lack of friendship or lack of passion. You know what I'm saying? It was all because he wanted to teach and you could tell he still had the itch to coach. And I'm really happy that he found a great situation with a guy that he's won 2 Stanley Cups with before in Rutherford and Pittsburgh, right? He was the assistant coach there. So to have a guy that you can work with that you have in the past to get Vancouver hopefully back to their winning ways, it'll be cool. I'm really happy for him, but I'm in the same breath very sad that we've lost him. So that seat is now open. I think Hank's going to be in a little bit more. I think Jans is going to be in a little bit more.
They need you and Jans on together. That hasn't happened yet, and I think that could be big time.
I'm looking forward to it. It's going to happen at some point. I'm not sure who else they have planning on coming in. Maybe Jonesy for a couple. So right now it's going to be a mixed bag of nuts, but looking forward to adapting and keeping rolling with the punches. Cause this year, man, TNT's got the Stanley Cup Finals. So we got to make up for a tough loss.
Biz, any funny stories from behind the scenes at TNT that you want to tell us?
I told the one about when we were arguing about a defensive play at TNT, like we were there.
And Sullivan was dogging you in Pittsburgh too.
He said I was wrong about it, which I was. Maybe it was the old school way of communicating when I was the defenseman, where I pointed to the guy that I wanted the back checker to take, and he says, "You don't fucking do that." So we kind of got in a heated debate, and then we ended up showing up to the hotel after, and he ended up pulling up the clip again, and then sure as shit, we ended up arguing for another 30 minutes. At 1:30 in the morning outside of people's hotel rooms on the 17th floor of the Four Seasons. So just shit like that. But no, just it was awesome just hearing about the old school stories and the old days of how things went, and not leaving the right after the game, and you're staying in town. So a lot of which I can't share on here. A lot of laughs of stories that will be kept in the vault, but just being able to enjoy stories from him and Wayne together was, a situation where you just shut your mouth and listen, and you're just in awe about the fact that you get to listen to 2 legends.
Hey, Whit, do you think this will be an actual deterrent to guys going to Vancouver? Like, is that just kind of
no?
Things people are saying it's still money. It's still Vancouver, right?
Yeah, I think in the end, it's you can't gas a player that way. Although I guess you could, let everyone know you're going to trade a guy, and then it's just different. Like there's no situation like what happened with Boudreau that could kind of happen to a player, at least not that I can think of right now. It's going to be different though, because guys knew the entire time, like, all right, I don't think Boudreau is going to be here. Guys know what's going on. And now talk comes in. It's like, all right, this is the guy. So I better start playing in terms of like, this guy's not going anywhere. So Talk was very open in his first press conference. I think he might have mentioned Miller in terms of like needing more out of him and getting back to the player he was last year. And he also mentioned how much ice time guys had in not maybe having these star players, Pettersson, etc., killing penalties. So there's going to be a lot of differences happening. Adam Foote, what a decision that is to bring him in. And Sergei Gonchar, who, I mean, talk about a hockey mind. Yeah. He is so smart with the details and the little things. And he's so good at even playing with him, he's so good at describing what he needs from you and looking at things that maybe a player wouldn't see. And a guy who played long enough as a great defenseman can kind of teach you. So I think the team is going to show improvement. I don't know what's going to be the deal in terms of the Horvat trade. He's going to be gone. I don't know if they're going to look to move other guys and try to actually rebuild. Nobody knows what's going to happen now. But they do know, at least for the fan base and the players, this entire ordeal is over with, and they can kind of start anew.
One other thing that Talk mentioned was adapting, more conversation with the players and getting to know the personnel. You know, whether it's grabbing them for a cup of coffee 10 minutes before practice and just keeping in touch with all of them to see how they're doing on a personal level, because there has to have been some form of adaptation over time and how you interact with the players. Like the tough love is cool and all, but there has to be a fine line of balance with that, with how this just the next generation, how they are. It's just, if you don't adapt, you're going to be out of the league. So he mentioned that was one of his priorities coming in and making sure he establishes the relationships with the people, not just the players.
Right. Well said, Biz.